Hi, Kristy. Welcome to Small Business Casual. I can honestly say it's hard for me to be sitting right now because I'm so excited.
I know, I'm really excited. This is one of those things where we're going to be talking like we've known each other for years because we have. So
Because we
that'll be fun.
have. So I want to take people back to the moment, actually, not just when we first met, but I do think that story is important because part of the theme this month is like you never know who you're going to meet.
Mm.
And I think that you only can meet those people that you never know who you're going to meet and how they're going to change your life if you put yourself in the right spaces. So the way Kristy and I met, and I want you to tell it from your perspective too, but the way Kristy and I met is I don't even remember really how I learned about this event. Maybe on Eventbrite. I don't know. But we went to this thing called a net lunch, and it was at this cafe in Amherst, New Hampshire, back in 2014. I had just started my organic mattress business, which was in Amherst, and Kristy was starting her travel company. And I remember you very well. You're the only one, apart from the organizer, I remember from that day
Hmm.
whatsoever. And I think it was the Mickey, I was like, oh, Disney, like travel, right?
Yes.
So you're the only one I remember from that day. And I never would have said, oh, that person and we're going to stay connected for, 12, what are we going on? 12 years now.
Yes.
So you just never know. And what I love is we've danced in and out of each other's lives in so many different ways. Like we've been part of groups together. We've been, you've been by my side through the thick, like literally the thick and the thin. We've been podcast supporters of one another. So I just think that there's been so many different facets of our journey that have overlapped, but we have like totally, and we always have had totally different like industries and businesses. And we've tried a lot of the same things. And it's been so great. So now I want you to tell it kind of from your story, but because I'm really interested in your business startup story too, I want you to share how you got started, like what you were doing before, what the kind of like tipping point was, and then kind of lead us down that little adventure.
Yeah, sure. So it's a funny story how we started, and it's probably relatable to a lot of people. I became obsessed with going to Disney on vacation. Um, when I first started that, my daughter was really young, and I was the director of a child care center. Had very limited time off and limited funds. And then I kind of graduated into working for the state of New Hampshire and had more time off, not necessarily a lot more funds. And one night my husband said to me, he was looking at the credit card bill and he said, "We have got to stop going on vacation so much unless you can figure out a way to get Mickey to pay you." And I laughed. And I know you know this about me. I'm a master problem solver. So he literally dropped this gigantic boulder in front of me and said, "We can't go on vacation we can't go on vacation ever again," is what I heard. And what he meant was we can't go 3 times a year, right? It's like, so I started to figure out. I started like doing some searches, and I ended up linking up with a travel agency out of Indiana. I worked for them for about a year, but they were unfortunately a scammer. So
Mm.
I got scammed hard. Lost a lot of money out of that scenario because that person was doing kind of like the hiding the money shuffle kind of thing. It was a big mess. And as that was coming to light, I was like, wait a minute. I've had a business before. I could do this. And there, Mickey Guru Travel Company was born. I never really had a sense that I would do it full time. I thought, who leaves a state job, right? Great benefits, solid. I'd been there 6 or 7 years already, and I thought, I'm not gonna leave. I'm just gonna do this on the side. But within a year, the business exploded, and I ended up by the end of that first year with 15 travel agents working underneath me, and I couldn't keep up. And so I leaped and just said, I'm gonna go do this. Um,
Awesome. What do you attribute the business exploding to?
I think it was effort on my part, to be honest. It was like a dog with a bone. My first thing was like, I want to go on a cruise, and we don't have the money for a cruise, so I'm gonna do that. And then I just started, and because that first agency ended up going under, I took on a few of the agents that I had worked with there, and then they started telling their people and all of that. So it just grew. I was a little naive, I think, at first. I was like, oh, I'll have this little side thing, and then realized how much I loved it. and how much I felt held back in my job at the state because of just bureaucracy and all of that. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to go do this and see how it goes. We're now 12 and a half years later. But the net lunch thing, Emily, I was still working for the state when I went to that. I feel like the biggest imposter you could ever imagine. Like, I was like, I'm going to this networking lunch, which in my field before, that was not a thing we did. And I'm like, I'm going to go to the cafe in Amherst? What? Like, I had this thing. And I remember sitting down. I also don't remember anybody in the room. I don't even remember the organizer, which just makes me feel horrible. But I remember I had a notebook because I write everything down. I have raging ADHD, so the way I process information is to write down things. And I remember when you gave your little spiel and you said organic mattress store, I thought to myself, what in the world is that? Because in my world at that point, you only ate organic food. There was no organic clothing or shoes or mattresses. And I remember writing it down with a question mark and underlining a few times because I felt your energy. And I was like, there's something about your energy that I really connected to. But that was like the end of that. I was like, and truly to your point, like how we, obviously you don't do organic mattresses anymore, but our businesses couldn't be any more different.
Right.
You're certainly not a Disney adult. You're not somebody that was going to be like, oh my God, here's another Disney adult to bond with. But like, there's so many other really cool connections there that it's been great.
Oh, so like business story to business story. I love that you just kind of you were doing something for me when I was doing the mattress store, which by the way, you're not alone in looking at me like I had about 10 heads when I would say that. And that was part of the problem. It was like I was always just having to explain what it was and what it meant. And that was a lot. It was actually like quite a heavy lift. And I felt the momentum in that store was extremely slow. And then it kind of like ramped up to its peak and then it kind of like started fizzling out, So it was like a very like whoop, whoop. It was like a roller coaster. And then it was just over, the ride was over.
Yeah.
But when I was starting this business, I initially just started it kind of just like, well, a couple of my business friends need help with various tasks and various like content creation and writing tasks. So sure, I'll just help them. We were closing the store. So I had like 1 foot there and 1 foot there. And Jason planted it on me like a problem to solve, essentially saying, you probably should go and get like a real job now, like it probably like no more business right now, just because we got to get resettled and sturdy.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, good idea. Good idea. And I'm like in that store, like building this clientele of people that now I've become indispensable to before we even closed the shop. So kind of like you, once I got done with that venture, I was just like, well, I guess I have to start this business because I've already got the clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just love that because it's kind of like the time where we stopped like overthinking the quote unquote right decision or the smart decision. And you just sort of go with like what people are asking you for, what you're really good at, and what lights you up. And that is so often the path ahead. That is the successful one. So
it really is.
It just was like, whew, right away.
Yeah. And people thought, I don't know if they did this to you, but people thought I was crazy. Like, as I was working for the state, everybody thought that was like the dream job. And for me, it was at one point, absolutely. But I remember one of my closest friends for years started introducing me to people as her unemployed friend. And I was like, hold up. Granted,
like,
we're not friends.
Unemployed, overemployed. Like if
exactly.
A self-employed person works more.
Exactly. And we are no longer friends anymore because she kept doing that even after I pointed that out. But I feel like people thought it was crazy. And I kept saying, I know. And I had the security, thank goodness, because my husband had the health insurance. So I didn't have to worry about that aspect of it. So I was able to, I built up my clientele for sure while I was doing both things. And then when I looked at it and went, I'm almost replacing my income. I can jump now. And now I'm not afraid to say that I make more money now than I ever did in my career. That was my original career where I had my college degree from. Like this.
Yeah.
I joke about the fact that the College of Disney Knowledge has earned me more income than my bachelor's of education. So
And you've gotten to have like fun and go on trips while doing it. So, okay,
Yeah.
this I would love to highlight. What are some, because you're really good at busting myths, like especially on your podcast. Kristy's podcast will be in the show notes and you have to check it out. She answers like really fun questions about travel. No question too bold, no question too basic. You can ask anything you want. But what are some of the misconceptions that people have around travel agents, and also can they do it themselves? Like what are the benefits, those kind of things, because you face those a lot. And I know as the world changes and AI gets involved, like there's just probably more of those coming at your way.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many different ones. We could do a whole thing about just the myths. And that is coming on my podcast. We're going to talk about a lot of that. But one of the biggest ones when I first started was travel agents are still a thing. Like people assume because you have Google and you have Expedia or whatever that like travel agents don't exist. We absolutely still exist. Now we're dealing with an opposite problem where the MLM, the pyramid networking thing, has tried to take over travel agents. So I'll be in a room and say, I'm a travel agent and, this is my business model. And there'll be like 6 other people in the same networking room claiming that they own their own travel business. And really what they've done is they pay a monthly fee to call themselves a travel agent and they have no professional training. So like that's become a thing where people are like, oh yeah, you guys are all the same. So a lot of my visibility content right now is how I'm different than that. Professional training. Someone actually said to me once, I introduced myself, said I own Mickey Guru Travel Company, and she said, no, you don't. That's an MLM. And I was like, what? And in front of a whole room of people. And I kind of like stopped. I was like, wait, you're going to have to keep going on this because we need to figure out why you think that. Because my husband and I started this business literally in our basement. Like,
Yeah.
and I realized that she knew one of the agents that worked for me. So she assumed it was a big conglomerate. And I was like, oh, no, no. Sue works for me.
Yeah.
She's an independent contractor. So there's like that myth that there's just, I guess I probably would say one way to do it. And we get bulked in with people that are kind of playing with it. And I will say, I don't have any problem with people that choose to do a business like that. Like Tastefully Simple works great for something like that. Travel doesn't though, because travel is not something you can pick up and drop off. And people need to know that you're going to be there when things hit the fan. And
Yeah.
if you're just kind of dabbling in something, that doesn't work out. I do think that one of the other big ones for us is that do-it-yourself mentality. And the reality is most adults could plan their vacation on their own. Absolutely. It's not rocket science. But the problem being you only know what you know. So, and Google will only tell you what you ask it. And AI is causing a wrinkle in that because people, I just last week had a client sent me something that said, this is the trip I want. I got it off of AI. And I looked at it and I was like horrified. I was like, okay, well, half of this information is from pre-2000. Like 2000, Emily. Like not 2020, 2000. And I was like, that doesn't exist. Like this is, and so I realized that another piece of that visibility that I need to start talking about is the difference between booking with a professional travel agent that travels and knows how things work versus an AI who is just kind of like pulling random things from wherever, right? And I know as a copywriter, you run into that too. Like it's not the
Yeah, but
same.
I often say when you don't have the friction with the world, when you don't have the experience, really hard to get your information from something that doesn't have that. And we
Yeah.
can, there are situations when you don't need the human experience to
Mhm.
have the information and to have the knowledge. But more often than not, what I'm finding when I get AI stuff is I'm like, that works in theory, but it
Yeah.
doesn't work in real life. It doesn't work
Yeah.
when you add in another person, when you add in the fact that somebody might have to pee, when you add in like whatever the case may be, right? So it's not always reliable for that reason because it just literally is not in the world experiencing how paint dries or whatever we're trying to ask it.
Yeah, and I think that like I think that AI has a place. for
Hmm.
sure in certain things. But I think that like there's nothing like sitting. I have consultations with my clients, kind of like what we're doing right now, unless they're local and then it's at a coffee shop. But I'm like trying to figure out what makes them tick. And so they'll say something in passing about, oh, yeah, my husband has a little bit of anxiety sometimes, blah, blah, blah. And I'm immediately honed in going, people with anxiety need a special kind of attention when they travel because otherwise
Hmm.
they're going to be miserable and make everybody else miserable. But if I can create this little pocket of information here about specifically at the Boardwalk Inn, that you know that here are some really great places to escape and have some quiet time, that's not something you're ever going to think to ask Google. You're not going to think about those different pieces. So the human connection in planning travel is just, it's huge and underrated, I think, from people that want to click on buttons that say book now, $6.99 for a whole week. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, but did you know what you're getting for that? You don't.
So AI is one of the, I'd say, one of the challenges that we're currently kind of overcoming. What are some of the other things like I've seen you navigate the pandemic and team members that have been kind of a challenge? What are some of the tough client situations? Like, what are some of the things that you've had to overcome as you've learned, and how has it grown you as a person in addition to growing your business?
Oh my gosh. So I will say it has made me more patient. It has also allowed me to have a different view of people. I used to work with people in terms of caring for their children, and children and money are the things that people are going to be the most sensitive about. So this is one of those pieces that we're still dealing with the money aspect. And then in some ways we're talking about their children, their
I was
family.
like, you got both.
Yeah, right. And what I've realized is that listening to people is the most important thing. Like,
Mm.
whether it is one of my agents or it is a client, listening before I react. So it has taught me a lot about stopping the internal dialogue in my own head and truly just listening to what's being said. I had a crazy experience recently where a client is going to Universal Orlando, and I booked their package. We had this great. She's a repeat client, also. She's going in August, and then 2 weeks ago, Universal made a major change that impacted her vacation, and I saw it. I called her immediately, and I said, "Hey, just so you know," and I told her, and she lost her marbles. Like, she's never raised her voice. She's never been anything but completely kind to me. And she was like off her rocker. And I was stunned. And so we went through this whole thing. And I kept saying that, like, she said I misled her. And I was like, I didn't know this was coming. They didn't tell me this, right? So I ended up ending the call with her. And I was sick over it because that's just not how I am. And 2 days later, she called. Then she was crying at this point, apologizing for being a quote unquote maniac.
Yeah.
And what I kind of went, okay. And I was like, I don't know what to do with any of this. And then she said, I've been dealing with a lot right now. And this was a big part of what we were looking forward to. And I'm ashamed of myself that I took it out on you. I know it's not your fault. As I was telling my friends and family about what my travel agent did, they all looked at me and tilted their head and went, how does your travel agent have anything to do with that? So I've learned not to take things personally, at least
Yeah.
outwardly. I did beat myself up, even though I knew I wasn't the one that misled her, that there was just a change. But I think in the grand scheme of things, I've realized that people come to you with all of their humanity. And sometimes you get the best of them, and sometimes you get the worst of them. But relationships make the difference, right? Like, because she'd known me for years and I'd known her for years, I didn't like get upset with her. I just was kind of like stunned. And I think when we realize that, it gives us more grace for everybody involved. So
I think not taking it personally is key. And of course we do take things quote unquote personally because we want to do our best,
Yeah.
but I really do think that so often it's like what somebody else is bringing to the table when we are really doing a fantastic job, you know. So
Right. Right.
but you are a very good listener. I have noticed this about you many, many times. You do listen very closely, and you listen in a deeper way than most people do, which I've always appreciated. The other thing I noticed about you that I think you don't take this the wrong way, but I think when I first kind of started getting in peer groups and things like that with you, I think you had a harder time with boundaries, and you've become much better at setting boundaries. And like part of that is probably just learning yourself and like being like, I can't crash into bed at 2 a.m. because
Yeah.
I'm on a call with a client. But you have definitely gotten better, it seems to me, from the outside with your boundaries.
And I honestly attribute that to my network of fellow professional entrepreneurs, specifically women. I feel like there's been this ongoing conversation that boundaries are good, that they are healthy, and that has allowed me to do that, right? Like, so certainly in the network that you built and those conversations that we had, I'm also part of another one that we talk a lot about giving of ourselves endlessly doesn't benefit anyone. So that,
Yeah.
and I think honestly, what I have found, which was a pleasant surprise because I thought my clients would be mad that I was starting to put these things in place. I actually feel like they take me more seriously as a professional because they're like, she has a process. So she's got this. And that is exactly how it's supposed to be. Like, for example, when I book like a Disney vacation, people always want to talk about dining reservations. And I'm like, we will get there, but we are going to start here because that's something we need to do like 60 days in advance. We don't need to do it now. And it's going to be confusing for everybody. And they're like, oh, you've got a whole process? Yes, I've done this a few thousand times now. And people are like, oh my gosh, I can let go. Like I can just let it happen. And I
Yeah.
think that that was a surprise to me. I thought people would honestly be upset that I was saying I'm no longer taking a phone call at 7 a.m. on a Saturday. And
What a
opposite.
good, I don't think we talk about this enough, how boundaries really are a trust builder for our clients. Like I've had the same
Yeah.
situation where I'm like, no, that's not how we do it. We do it this way. And then they're like, oh, of course, I'm sorry. Like I trust you 100%, do the process, take me through. So
Yeah.
I really think it is a huge, huge trust builder. And honestly, I mean, I really do. I say this and I'm trying to like really ingrain it into my body, but I think when we set a boundary, if somebody is truly going to disrespect that boundary, like they are not the person for us. I have a former client who they constantly are like messaging me on WhatsApp. I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't use WhatsApp for work. I will never use WhatsApp for work. And I probably have said this to them 15 times. He still does it. I mean, he's not a client at the moment, even. That's the other piece of it. But
Right.
so now I'm just like, I'm actually just going to ignore it because if I don't use WhatsApp for work, it's none of his business when I go onto WhatsApp and like check in with family or whatever I do use it for, right? So
Hmm.
so I have to be strict with that. Same with Voxer, right? Like there are just certain things I do not use for work because they don't work for my brain and it's not along with my process. I'm going to be disorganized, I'm going to lose things. And the more I think we can do that, if those people don't want to stick around, that's okay. Like that wasn't my client anyway.
Well, and I feel like that, if that's let that seep into your bones for sure, because it is in mine now and is the hallmark of my personality that my people will find me and I'll find them. And I'm not taking, and I wouldn't even call it disrespect because if somebody wants to be somebody that, let's say, calls on the phone constantly and that works for them and who they're working with, perfect. I
Yeah.
had to let a client go that would call me unannounced constantly, all hours of the day and night and the weekends. And he did book travel with me. But I kept saying, I can't take information like this. I can't take unscheduled phone calls because I'm literally on calls all day.
Yeah.
And also, my process is this so I don't lose something. The amount of
Right.
things that I am balancing constantly, if it's not coming through in the ways that I can take them, they get lost. He was
Yeah.
big mad. He was big mad. But I was like, I'm sorry. I'm like, if you want to work together and you're okay with my process, great. If not, I could refer you to other travel agents that I know that do phone
Yeah.
calls like that. But and he was big mad. He went away. But I think that like that's okay. Like I was okay with that because yes, I could have used the financial situation, but I'm also like I'm not selling my soul. I have a
Yeah.
process. It works really well for me and my clients. So I got to follow that.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, one last thing I kind of want to ask you. Well, two last things. One thing I really appreciate about you is that you're always looking for ways to invest in yourself and your own personal growth and also your team. And I was just kind of wondering what's something that you've learned over these past 12 years. What was like your favorite investment in yourself or your team? How did that kind of change you?
Oh, this is an easy one. um, when we first started the agency, we did like Facebook groups, like to keep in contact. And then I think it was the third or fourth year, I decided to host an agent retreat. And I rented a house in the middle of the woods in New Hampshire. And I invited all of my agents to come. And they didn't all come because in this field, they're independent contractors and everybody has like all different kinds of schedules and stuff. But at the time, I think I had 18 or 19 agents and 13 came. And we spent a long weekend in the woods doing training. I had vendors like Disney came to us in the middle of the woods. Royal
Wow.
Caribbean rolled up with their stuff in the middle of the woods. And we had campfire sing alongs. We had like work sessions. We have now done that every year since, except for 2020. We had to cancel it because it was planned for June 2020. Um, and people come from all around the country to go. Like Guru Weekend is a hallmark of what makes us who we are. And I need sleep. I know we've talked about that before. When I tell you I am up every night until 1, 2 in the morning because we're just sitting around eating smart food popcorn and just chatting. But the energy that they give me and that we give each other, and it's personal and professional. Last year's we did on a lake, house on a lake, and we did yoga by the lake in the morning and like all of this stuff. It has made such a difference in the relationships and the bonds and the trust that we have for each other. I would, without a doubt, do a trust fall off a building into any of those people's arms. Like, so
Awesome.
that's been pivotal for us.
I want something like that. I love every time you do that. I'm like, that is the coolest idea ever.
Yeah,
So
love
I
it.
love that. Okay, and then my last question is just like, what do you want to share about the Talk Travel to Me podcast? I love hearing about people's podcasting journeys. So how are you liking since you made your own? I know you made a big change with it. So how are you feeling about all that?
I love it. It's one of my favorite times during the week because I now am getting questions from listeners and getting questions from friends that listen that really aren't even that interested in travel, but they're like, oh, I'm curious about this. So I love that aspect. I also love the ability to just, I don't plan anymore. Like, I literally am like, people will ask a question. Like, one of them is coming up, where are the most romantic spots in Walt Disney World? And so, like, I've been there so much. I was there on my honeymoon. Granted, it's been a long time, but like, I like to just riff about it. And, they're shorter episodes now, and it's one topic, so I can kind of just talk.
Yeah.
Um, it feels creative, which, again, I didn't attribute to myself for that. Um, but it's fun. The struggle I have, though, is finding time in my day. Like, I actually mentioned to my husband, who is my editor now, I was like, oh, I'm doing a podcast with Emily today. He's like, oh, that's great. When are you going to record the one you're supposed to drop on Thursday of your own?
You're
And
like,
I went,
you're like right after, right
yeah.
after.
I was like, well, I'll already have the mic out, so maybe I'll just do it then.
We'll give you 5 minutes of your time back. I'll get you out
Yeah.
early.
Yeah. So
Oh
that's it.
my gosh. All right, I love that. So, Kristy's podcast, like I said, will be in the show notes. Make sure to check it out. And I agree. There's things I'm not wildly interested about when it comes to travel, but I just like to hear, like, it's like a relationship podcast just as much as it is a travel podcast. Cause you'd be like, should you travel with your mother in law? And then you get into all these dynamics about mother in laws. I'm like, this is awesome. So,
Yeah.
definitely check that out. Okay. In closing, if you could go back to 2014 and you're like, it's us, but you're getting to talk to us as the you now,
Yeah.
what advice would you give us about the next decade of business ownership, which we can also like pass on to people coming behind us or alongside us?
Okay. Absolutely. I would say lean in to relationships with other women on this journey because the most pivotal, the one that you and I have for sure. And then I have other people that I've walked on the path with too. They have given me so much energy and support, even if I'm like just watching them, like that is, I could get emotional thinking about just the impact. And I had
Mm,
no idea, none, that there would be those level connections with, and I'll say you because I'm talking to you at the table, like lean into the mattress thing. Maybe ask her what an organic mattress is, right? Because my 2026 self would actually like to have one that I'm not laying on a mattress with chemicals. So I'll just say that. But I think leaning into that and trust yourself. Like listen to yourself because you have the answers that you need in terms of what you want if you
mhm.
just listen. So I think,
Such great advice.
yeah,
And you brought it full circle
I
for
did.
the month of Oh, the people you will meet. So I love it. And
Love it.
I really agree. Find your people and stick close, and it may look different for every single one of us. Some of us, it looks like groups. Some of us, it looks like these kind of like one-to-one little pockets. So it
Mhm.
looks different in all the ways we go about it. But it really, really is. It's essential for business growth and also personal growth, I think. So,
Absolutely.
all right, Kristy, thanks so much for joining me. Now you got 5 minutes to record your episode.
I'm going to do it.
I'm definitely got to have you back again. This was so fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was great.